I called myself Benny because I admired Jack Benny so much.
Yes, it's the Benny Hill Show!
There was once a TV show that captured the attention of millions around the world. A show that had everyone laughing and eagerly awaiting the next episode. Then, without warning, it all came to an end. For many, that unforgettable show was The Benny Hill Show. For years, Benny Hill captivated audiences with his comedic timing, slapstick humor, and eccentric characters. However, the very show that made him a household name also became the catalyst for his downfall. The controversial sketch that marked the end of Hill's reign in comedy not only changed the way people viewed his show, but also reflected a shift in society's attitudes toward comedy and culture. Benny Hill's career is a classic tale of an entertainer who went from being loved by millions to facing harsh criticism. From his humble beginnings in the 1920s to the peak of his fame in the 1970s and 1980s, Hill's life was filled with comedic brilliance and eventual controversy. But what was it that led to the end of one of the most beloved comedy shows in television history? Was it a single sketch? A shift in the public's taste? Or was it simply the inevitable result of changing societal norms? Let's dive deeper into Benny Hill's life and career to understand how the man who made the world laugh also made it question what is funny and what is no longer acceptable. Benny Hill's early life, the beginning of a comedy legend. Alfred Hawthorne Hill, known to the world as Benny Hill, was born in Southampton, England, in the mid-1920s. There has always been some confusion about the exact year of his birth, with some sources claiming 1924, while others insist it was 1925. Hill's family wasn't in show business. His father ran a small shop that sold surgical instruments. However, showbiz ran in his blood, with Hill's grandfather being a circus clown. Though his father's business had nothing to do with entertainment, Hill was drawn to the world of comedy and performance from an early age. Hill's early years were far from glamorous. He wasn't born with a silver spoon in his mouth. His first jobs were simple, working-class roles. He delivered milk, drove cars, stacked shelves at Woolworths, and played drums in local bands. While none of these jobs were particularly fun or glamorous, they gave Hill a unique perspective on life. He observed the small, often unnoticed moments in daily life that would later form the backbone of his humor. From the way people interacted when they thought no one was looking to the awkwardness of mundane tasks, these early experiences gave Hill a unique to make everyday situations laughable. Then came World War II, a period that changed everything. Hill enlisted in the Royal Electrical and Mechanical Engineers, where he worked as a mechanic, learning how to repair engines and cars. He later served as a searchlight operator, guiding beams of light across dark skies to help spot enemy aircraft. But Hill's true calling emerged when he was transferred to the Combined Services Entertainment Unit. There, he performed for soldiers who needed a good laugh more than they needed food or rest. It was here that Hill first realized the power of comedy, to not only entertain, but to heal. After the war, Hill found himself inspired by British music hall performers who mixed slapstick humor, parody, and wit to create laughs. But it was the legendary American radio comedian Jack Benny who had the biggest influence on Hill. Hill admired Benny's ability to create humor through timing and the way he made even silence seem funny. In homage to Benny, Hill adopted the stage name Benny, which would become the cornerstone of his entire career. The birth of The Benny Hill Show, from radio to television. Hill's first foray into radio came in 1947 with the launch of Variety Bandbox, a show that gave him the chance to showcase his ability to play multiple characters. Although he gained recognition for his great timing, Hill quickly realized that radio could not capture the full range of his talents. His humor was physical, relying heavily on facial expressions, body movements, and slapstick, which simply couldn't be conveyed through radio alone. As a result, Hill transitioned to television in the early 1950s, where his physical comedy would thrive. In 1955, The Benny Hill Show made its debut on the BBC. This was a groundbreaking moment in British comedy. Unlike other comedy shows of the time, which relied on wordplay and stand-up routines, Hill brought something entirely new. He combined the speed of television sketches with the energy of variety shows, creating a chaotic but hilarious mix of fast-paced humor, songs, slapstick, and eccentric characters. Every episode felt like a whirlwind of gags and surprises, making it unlike anything audiences had seen before. The show was a hit, and by the late 1960s, Hill had moved to Thames Television. This was a pivotal moment for The Benny Hill Show. With the change to Thames, Hill began producing hour-long episodes instead of shorter weekly sketches. This gave him more room to explore more complex stories, musical numbers, and bigger shows. It was during this time that the show became a true international sensation. By the 1970s, The Benny Hill Show was being broadcast in over 140 countries worldwide. One of Hill's most beloved and enduring creations was Fred Scuttle, a bumbling, awkward character who became a fan favorite. Fred Scuttle's inability to get anything right made him a relatable yet absurd figure, and Hill's portrayal of him captured the essence of his humor. Simple, slapstick, and always surprising. Another standout character was Harry Hill, who epitomized the helpless, everyman character. And of course, there was Jackie Wright, the bald actor who was often the victim of Hill's comic violence, with Hill delivering repeated blows to Wright's head for comedic effect. The interactions between Hill and these characters helped to create a sense of familiarity and warmth, making the show feel like a group of friends having fun each week. Perhaps the most iconic element of The Benny Hill Show was its unforgettable ending. Each episode concluded with a high-speed chase, set to the fast-paced saxophone tune, Yakety Sax. Hill, often dressed in ridiculous outfits, would be pursued by a variety of characters: police officers, nurses, grannies, young women, and more, running through parks, streets, and hallways. This chaotic chase became so iconic that Yakety Sax would forever be linked to Benny Hill. It was a simple but effective comedic device that became a cultural staple. International fame and the controversy of Hill's Angels. As the 1970s progressed, The Benny Hill Show continued to evolve. In the 1980s, Hill introduced a new feature to the show: Hill's Angels. These were a group of beautiful dancers who performed highly choreographed routines that added a new layer of spectacle to the show. While the dancers were undeniably talented and brought an element of glamour to the series, their presence sparked significant controversy. Many viewers and critics accused Hill of using the women as mere props for his comedy, reducing them to nothing more than visual accessories to enhance his humor. For some, this element of the show was seen as a form of objectification, especially in a time when attitudes towards women were beginning to shift. Feminists and media professionals began to argue that Hill's humor was out of touch with the growing social awareness of gender equality. While some fans embraced the addition of Hill's Angels, others felt uncomfortable with the way the women were portrayed. Despite the criticism, Hill's international fame continued to grow. In the UK, The Benny Hill Show reached a peak of over 21 million viewers in 1971, making it one of the most watched shows in British television history. The show was equally popular in the United States, where it was nominated for several Emmy Awards in the 1980s. In 1984, Hill received the prestigious Rose d'Or, one of Europe's highest television honors, solidifying his status as a global comedic superstar. The turning point: changing social norms and the beauty queen sketch. By the late 1980s, however, the world was changing. A new generation of comedians, known as the alternative comedians, began to rise. These comedians rejected slapstick and physical humor in favor of sharper political satire and social commentary. One of the leading voices in this movement was Ben Elton, who became famous for his work on The Young Ones and his appearances on shows like Saturday Night Live. Elton and his peers criticized Hill for perpetuating outdated and harmful stereotypes, particularly regarding gender. The turning point came with a particular sketch that would eventually become infamous. In the sketch, Hill parodied a beauty pageant. The contestants, dressed in revealing outfits, were portrayed as little more than visual jokes, with their only role being to look attractive for the male host's amusement. The punchline of the sketch, however, crossed a line. What was once considered harmless fun now seemed crude and tasteless. The audience that had once found Hill's antics innocent began to question whether the humor was truly innocent anymore. This particular sketch became a symbol of everything that was wrong with the show. Critics, feminists, and even other comedians now had concrete proof of the show's outdated and problematic humor. What had once been seen as a form of harmless entertainment now looked offensive and sexist. The sketch was widely criticized, with many arguing that it reflected a deeper issue in the show's treatment of women. The fall of the Benny Hill Show, social change and cancellation. As the 1980s came to a close, the criticism surrounding Hill's show intensified. The comedy landscape was changing, and Hill's brand of slapstick humor no longer seemed to resonate with the new generation. What was once considered fresh and revolutionary now appeared stale and offensive. The Beauty Queen sketch became the focal point of the backlash, leading many to reconsider Hill's legacy. In Britain, ratings for The Benny Hill Show began to decline. Younger viewers were moving away from the show, drawn to new forms of comedy that were more politically aware and socially conscious. At the same time, the costs of producing the show continued to rise. With each episode costing hundreds of thousands of pounds, The Benny Hill Show had become a financial burden rather than a cultural asset. By 1989, Thames Television, the network that had aired the show for years, made the difficult decision to cancel The Benny Hill Show. After 21 years of episodes, the show was no longer viable. Fans were shocked by the cancellation, but the writing had been on the wall for some time. The world had changed, and so had comedy. The final years, a legacy in flux. Despite the cancellation, Hill didn't give up on his career. In 1991, he launched Benny Hill's World Tour, a series meant to bring his comedy to international stages. However, the series was short-lived, with only one episode, Greetings from New York, ever being produced. Hill's attempts to adapt to the changing world of comedy fell flat, and he found himself struggling to maintain relevance. Behind the scenes, Hill's personal life was far removed from the lavish world of fame. Despite his success, he lived a modest lifestyle, renting apartments instead of buying property, fixing his own clothes, and shopping at the grocery store for basic food items. Hill never married and kept his personal life extremely private, leading to a number of rumors about his relationships and lifestyle. In the early 1990s, Hill's health began to decline. He suffered a heart attack in February 1992 and was later diagnosed with kidney failure. Despite doctors advising him to undergo surgery, Hill refused treatment. On April 20th, 1992, Benny Hill passed away from heart thrombosis at the age of 68. He died in his armchair, unaware that a new job offer had arrived on the very same day. It was a tragic and untimely end to a career that had spanned decades. The legacy of Benny Hill: comedy, controversy, and cultural shifts. Benny Hill's rise to fame and subsequent fall is a reminder of how comedy can both shape and reflect societal attitudes. Hill's humor was revolutionary in its time, breaking boundaries and creating a new form of television comedy. However, as societal norms changed, so too did the way people viewed his work. What was once seen as groundbreaking and funny became outdated and controversial. Even today, The Benny Hill Show remains a part of television history. Its slapstick humor, eccentric characters, and iconic chase scenes have left a lasting impact. Yet the controversy surrounding Hill's treatment of women, particularly in the Beauty Queen sketch, serves as a cautionary tale about the evolving nature of comedy and culture. Benny Hill's story is a testament to the changing nature of entertainment and the delicate balance between what is funny and what is no longer acceptable. His legacy endures, but it serves as a reminder that even the most beloved figures in comedy can face the consequences of cultural shifts. If you found Benny Hill's story interesting, be sure to like, share, and subscribe for more in-depth stories from the world of entertainment.